just heard me playing Jerry's solo from me and Bob and McGee, the great cover from the Pacific 73-74 show. Let's just get right into this one. This is kind of that flamenco style that they play this in, kind of like El Paso, reminds me of that. And what do you know? It's the same key. And it's just a 1-4-5, you know, in D. So it's D is the 1 chord, G is the 4 chord, A is the 5 chord, and that's how we're going to talk about things. We're going to talk about is numbers 1, 4, and 5, right? So getting right into it, starts on the 1 chord, and he's playing up here, right? This D in the E shape, if you know the cage system here, and he's playing around the chord tones with these little neighbor notes, all this little chromatic stuff. So these notes, and then this is outside of the chord, up to here going. Right? So cool. But underneath it is, it's like that. It's kind of outlining the chord, plus that just that 4th there, briefly. And then kind of resolves, it kind of breaks that pattern, that tension, but that big bend there. And then it's right back to outlining the chord. This is the D in the C shape. And if you want to know more about the cage system, I've got a cage cheat sheet I'll put in the link description down below. We're going to be talking a lot about these shapes of, you know, this is that C shape, boom, way up here. And you'll see as we look at more and more, this is just so much of he's just outlining these shapes around the fretboard. Pretty much just right around this area is where his whole solo is. So he gets to that spot. Anyways, we're here. So, outlining that D, bending up to the D right here, like that. And then pulls off right here to the C sharp, which is now the major third of A, the 5 chord, right? So just as it happens, you'll see it's another theme here too. When things change to a chord, he goes right to a chord tone to really emphasize that change. And you can think of this as A in the G shape, this G, right? Boom, right here. So pulls off right to that note, and then, you know, kind of continues that little bending thing there with that note. Gets to this little scalar pattern. Gets up high. Boom, ends it right when it goes back to the 1. To the 1, to the D, and back to, you know, another chord tone, right, of the moment, right? And it waits a little bit, and then gets this little very flamenco-y, you know, I feel kind of sound climbing up that scale, which is just the D major scale, and then just these little typical Jerry patterns. Going through the scale. And then climbing up here. So typical little hammer-ons, these chromatic things. And this note right here is a C. This is outside of the key, but this is very typical where you'd be going from a 1 chord to a 4 chord, and right before, someone in the band or the whole band might make it a D7, and that pulls, it's called a pull chord, pulls to the 4. So he's playing that in his single note lines. Right here. Right, so that's pretty cool how he's doing that. I kind of think this is like as an A minor too. He's got this A minor kind of thing going on, right? But anyways, yeah, he's going up, back up, chromatic, and he's going. There you go. The first note there. Get to a G, and also this is not mapped out my chart. I should say too. I just kind of did this quick where I'm not putting the exact measures in the right spot. It's kind of just like a measure for each chord, but it is not exactly how it is. But it just gives you the idea, you know. So anyways, you know, he gets to G right when it changes to G. You know, climbing right up to boom G, and then here's the 5th, another chord tone. And then climbs up from here's the major third of it, climbing back to that 5th, and this is G. This is part of that G shape. Back, it's just outlining. There's that G, or this way here. Just outlining that G a lot, throwing in this C, which you think like, oh, it's not in the key. It's just doing it before as making it as like a dominant seventh. Now it's kind of functioning more like a sus note in relation to the G. Kind of that shape right there. Right? And then it slides down to the major third of D when it goes back to the D, the 1 chord. And then playing just these little scale patterns. Boom, 5 chord, the 5th of the 5 chord right here, C sharp. Right as it happens, it's like every single time he's doing this, right? And then it's, I'm not sure this is exactly how he played it, but I heard it. This is the same note, but then it sounds like he goes real quick here. So I think he's playing it here and then moves, even though he's playing the same note, but in a different spot. And then, going up here, outlining the A chord, right? So ends on a note of the chord, or starts on it, and then. And right here, going right down, boom, 1 chord, back to that shape, again, another chord tone. It is the major third of D of the 1 chord. So going, and he jumps up to the root. So it's the major third root. It's like playing this shape right here. Again, using that cage shape, so helpful. And then, sounds like it's kind of mostly on 1 string there. And that's a cool little pattern there where he's going down like this, sliding down a scale note and then back up. And then does it here, but instead of doing the same thing, he's sliding up a scale note, which is 2 notes, but it's the same idea of going to the next scale, note in the scale. In this case, it happens to be 2 frets. Here, 1 fret, 2 frets. But he's going up and down. So it's like taking that idea and reversing it. So, and then ending on a chord tone, the 5th of D, A, right? And that's something that I call cut and paste, where you take an idea and you cut it out and paste it somewhere else. And Jerry would do that all the time. In this case, I came up with this, figuring this out. It's cut and paste and flip. So he's cutting and pasting this idea, but he's flipping it, flipping the way. And he did that all the time. And it's a way of making things a little bit less predictable, a little more musical, but still having these underlying patterns in there. So think of that about a way of, you just take these ideas, move them elsewhere, but then sometimes just flip them around. And it makes for a much more musically satisfying sound. So if you found this stuff helpful, you want to check out another breakdown, I'll put one right here, but take it real slow. And if you wanted the chart for this, I've got this on Patreon, plus tons of other charts and exclusive videos that are only on Patreon. And all my backing tracks now are actually only on Patreon. So check that out and check out this video here, and hopefully I'll see you there soon.